A stranger sent me a DM. You don't know me, but your boyfriend brings my sister flowers every Friday. I thought she was trolling, until she sent a live photo of him getting out of my car with flowers in his hands. I was standing in the parking garage, keys already in my hand, when I noticed the envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. The fluorescent lights overhead made everything look greenish and flat. My car was where I'd left it that morning. Third row from the elevator, nose pointing toward the concrete wall with the faded yellow stripe. The envelope was plain white, no writing on the outside, sealed with clear tape instead of the adhesive flap. I set my bag on the hood and pulled the envelope free. The paper felt slightly damp, like it had been there for hours. Inside was a single photograph printed on regular copy paper. The image showed me getting out of my car in this same garage. Same jacket I was wearing now, same bag on my shoulder. The angle was wrong, though, taken from above, maybe from the stairwell landing or the security camera mount. But security cameras don't print photos and leave them on windshields. I turned the photo over. On the back, in blue ballpoint pen, someone had written a date and time. Yesterday, 7:43 a.m. The garage was quiet except for the hum of the ventilation system and the distant sound of a car alarm somewhere on a lower level. I looked around slowly. The rows of cars stretched in both directions, empty of people. My breathing sounded louder than it should have. I folded the photo once, then again, and put it in my coat pocket. My hands were steady, but my pulse wasn't. When I got in the car, I locked the doors before starting the engine. That's when I saw the second envelope, this one on my passenger seat. I didn't open the second envelope right away. I sat there with both hands on the steering wheel, looking at it. White paper, same as the first. No tape this time. It was already open, the flap tucked inside. The parking garage felt smaller suddenly, like the walls had shifted inward while I wasn't paying attention. My car doors had been locked when I arrived. I was certain of that. I always locked them, always checked twice. The envelope sat there anyway, bright white against the gray upholstery. I reached over and picked it up, careful not to touch more of it than necessary. Inside were 3 more photographs, all of me. One showed me at the grocery store, pushing a cart past the produce section. Another showed me at a coffee shop downtown, visible through the front window, cup halfway to my mouth. The third was taken from outside my apartment building, showing my living room window from street level. The curtains were open. I could see my couch, my bookshelf, the lamp I'd left on. No writing this time, just the images. I started the car and drove home using a route I'd never taken before, turning randomly at intersections, checking the rearview mirror at every stoplight. No one followed me, or if they did, I couldn't tell. At home, I locked the door and set the chain. I put the envelopes on my kitchen table and stood there looking at them for a long time. The photos were printed on cheap paper, slightly pixelated when I looked closely. Not professional. Taken with a phone, probably. The dates weren't written on these ones, but I recognized each location. The grocery store was from last Thursday. The coffee shop was 3 days ago. The photo of my window could have been any time in the past week. I called the police non-emergency line. The dispatcher asked if I was in immediate danger. I said no. She asked if there were any threats. I said no, just photos. She told me to file a report online and someone would follow up. She made it sound routine. I thanked her and hung up. Then I called my landlord. He didn't answer. I left a message asking about the building's security, whether the front door lock had been working properly, whether anyone had reported seeing strangers in the hallways. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. I took the photos out again and laid them on the table in sequence. The earliest one first, the most recent last. 5 photos total. 5 different locations. 5 moments from my life, documented by someone I'd never seen. That night, I moved a chair in front of my apartment door. I checked every window lock. I looked at my phone's recent calls, my social media followers, my email inbox. Nothing unusual. No messages from strangers. No friend requests from blank profiles. Whoever was taking these photos wasn't trying to contact me. They were just watching. I didn't sleep well. Every sound in the building became meaningful. Footsteps in the hallway, doors opening and closing, the elevator bell. I kept my phone next to my pillow. Volume turned up, emergency number ready to dial. In the morning, I filed the police report online like the dispatcher suggested. I scanned the photos using my printer and attached them. I filled out every field in the form. Date of incident, location, description of what happened. I wrote it all in short, factual sentences. When I submitted it, I received an automated email with a case number. I saved it. At work, I told my supervisor I needed to leave early for a personal matter. She didn't ask questions. I drove to the police station downtown and asked to speak with someone about my report. The officer at the desk checked his computer, asked me to wait, then directed me to a small office down the hall. Detective Marlo Chen listened without interrupting while I explained. She was younger than I expected, with reading glasses on a chain around her neck and a coffee mug that said, "World's Okayest Detective." She looked at the photos, turning each one over to check for writing. Then she looked at me. Has this person contacted you directly? She asked. No. Made any threats? No. Do you know who might be doing this? No. She nodded slowly. It's concerning, she said. But without a direct threat or contact, it's difficult to pursue. We can't identify someone from photos they've taken in public spaces. Even the one of your window. If it's taken from the street, that's technically not illegal. Someone was in my car, I said. Did you report the car as broken into? There was no damage. The doors were locked when I left it. She wrote something in her notebook. Do you have any ex-partners who might be upset? Anyone you've had conflicts with recently? I thought about it. No. Co-workers? Neighbors? No one I can think of. She gave me her card and told me to call if anything else happened. She said they'd keep the report on file. She said to trust my instincts, be aware of my surroundings, consider changing my routine. Standard advice. She meant it kindly. I left the station feeling less safe than when I'd arrived. That afternoon, I stopped at a hardware store and bought a motion sensor camera, the kind that sends alerts to your phone. At home, I installed it inside my living room window, facing outward. I angled it down so it would capture anyone standing on the sidewalk looking up. Then I closed the curtains. I hadn't closed them in months. The apartment felt darker, smaller. I started keeping a log. I bought a small notebook and wrote down everything. Times I left the apartment, times I returned, routes I drove, places I went. If I saw someone twice in different locations, I wrote that down too. If someone made eye contact for too long, I wrote that down. I was building a record, though I wasn't sure for what purpose yet. 3 days passed. Nothing happened. No more envelopes. No alerts from the camera. I started to wonder if I'd overreacted. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone I'd angered without realizing it, and they'd gotten it out of their system. Then I got an email. It arrived in my work inbox at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. The subject line was blank. The sender's address was a random string of letters and numbers at a free email service. The message contained no text, just an attachment. I didn't open it right away. I forwarded it to my personal email first, then to Detective Chen. Then I opened it. It was a video file, 12 seconds long. It showed me walking from my car to my apartment building, filmed from across the street. The timestamp in the corner read, yesterday, 6:18 p.m. The video quality was clear enough that I could see my keys in my hand, the way I'd adjusted my bag on my shoulder before pulling the door open. I closed the video and sat very still. My office felt too bright, too exposed. The windows behind me faced the street. Anyone could be down there watching me right now. I stood up and lowered the blinds halfway. Then I called Detective Chen. She answered on the third ring. I told her about the email. She asked me to forward it to her immediately, which I'd already done. She said she'd have someone look at the sender's information, trace the IP address if possible. She asked if I'd noticed anyone following me. I said no, but I wasn't sure I'd recognize it if someone was doing it carefully. I want you to consider staying somewhere else for a few days, she said. Do you have family nearby? A friend? Yes. Good. Pack a bag. Don't tell anyone where you're going except me. You think it's that serious? I think someone is investing a lot of time into monitoring you. That's serious enough. I packed that night. 1 suitcase, essentials only. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, the notebook with my log. I left the lights on in my apartment and the TV playing quietly. I wanted it to look occupied. My friend Reina, practical, calm, never asked unnecessary questions, let me stay in her guest room without pressing me for details. I told her I needed a change of scenery for a few days. She said sure, and showed me where the extra towels were kept. From Reina's place, I continued my routine. I drove to work using different routes each day. I parked in different sections of the garage. I started eating lunch at my desk instead of going out. I avoided patterns. At night, I checked my motion sensor camera remotely. The feed showed my empty living room, curtains closed, nothing moving. A week went by. Then 2. Detective Chen called to tell me they'd traced the email to a VPN service, which meant they couldn't identify the sender. She suggested I consider getting a restraining order, but acknowledged that required knowing who to restrain. She gave me the name of a victim advocate who specialized in stalking cases. I called and left a message. I was starting to feel paranoid. Every person on the street became a potential threat. Every car that drove past twice became suspicious. I was exhausting myself with vigilance. Reina noticed. She asked gently if I wanted to talk. I told her someone had been following me. She didn't act surprised. She asked what I needed. I said I didn't know yet. The advocate, whose name was Jonas Ramirez, called me back 3 days later. He had a quiet voice and a methodical way of asking questions. He wanted to know everything. Timeline, evidence, police contact, security measures I'd taken. He listened to all of it, then asked if I'd checked my car for tracking devices. I hadn't thought of that. He explained that GPS trackers were cheap, easy to hide, and commonly used by stalkers. He told me where to look: under the bumpers, inside the wheel wells, behind the license plate, under the driver's seat. He said if I found one, not to remove it immediately. Document it first, photograph it, then call the police. That afternoon, I searched my car in the parking garage at Reina's building. I found it within 5 minutes. A small black magnetic box stuck to the underside of the rear bumper. My hand shook as I took photos with my phone, multiple angles, the device still attached. Then I called Detective Chen. She arrived 40 minutes later with another officer. They documented the device, photographed it themselves, then carefully removed it. Detective Chen held it in a gloved hand, turning it over. "This is a commercial tracker," she said. "Sells online for about $50. We'll see if we can pull any useful information from it. But these things usually don't leave much of a trail. How long has it been there? Hard to say. Could be weeks, could be months." The thought made my stomach turn. Months of my movements tracked. Every destination logged, every routine mapped. They took the device with them. Detective Chen told me to keep staying at Reina's, to keep varying my routine, to keep documenting anything unusual. She said they'd follow up soon. She looked tired when she said it, like she'd had this conversation too many times before. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the tracker, about all the places I'd driven, thinking I was alone, the grocery store, the coffee shop, work, Reina's building. Whoever had placed it now knew every location, including where I was hiding. I told Reina everything the next morning. She deserved to know. She listened without interrupting, then said I could stay as long as I needed, but suggested we install cameras at her building's entrance too. We did that same day. I was changing. I could feel it. The person I'd been 3 weeks ago, the one who left curtains open and walked to her car without checking her surroundings, was gone. I'd become someone who locked every door twice, who checked over her shoulder constantly, who jumped at unexpected sounds. I hated it. I hated that someone had done this to me. I hated that I didn't know who or why. But I wasn't powerless. I had evidence now. I had documentation. I had people helping me. I had Detective Chen's card in my phone. I had Jonas checking in every few days. I had Reina's spare room and her unquestioning support. And I had decided something else. I was going to find out who was doing this. Jonas helped me file for a temporary restraining order against John Doe, an unknown stalker. It was a strange legal process, getting protection from someone without a name. But it created a record. It made the situation official. The judge granted it after reviewing my evidence. I started going through my life systematically, looking for connections I'd missed. I made lists of everyone I interacted with regularly, co-workers, neighbors in my old building, the barista who knew my coffee order, the guy at the dry cleaner, the woman in the apartment next to mine who always said hello in the hallway. I looked at my social media accounts more carefully, going through followers one by one. Most were people I knew, some were acquaintances, a few were strangers. People who'd found me through shared interests or mutual friends. I screenshotted the profiles of anyone I didn't recognize. One account stood out. The profile had no personal photos, just a generic landscape image. The username was a random string. It had started following me 6 months ago. When I clicked through to see their other follows, the account followed only 12 people, all women, all in my city, all roughly my age. I sent the information to Detective Chen. She called me back within an hour. "We've seen this account," she said. "Or ones like it. We're looking into it." What does that mean? It means you're not the only one. The words settled over me like cold water. Not the only one. There were others. Other women with envelopes on their windshields, trackers on their cars, photos of their daily lives taken by someone invisible. How many others? I asked. "I can't discuss active investigations," she said, "but I can tell you we're taking this seriously now." 2 weeks later, Detective Chen called again. They'd identified a suspect, a man named Garrett Voss, 34 years old, worked in IT support, lived alone. They'd connected him to the social media account and traced his location data. He'd been at my old apartment building multiple times, at my workplace, at the grocery store I used. All times that matched my log. They arrested him the next morning. I didn't testify. There was no trial. He took a plea deal. The prosecutor told me he'd been stalking 4 women simultaneously, using the same methods with all of us: photos, tracking devices, surveillance. He'd never made contact, never made threats. He'd just watched, documented, collected. They found hard drives full of photos and videos, years of data. The prosecutor said he'd serve 3 years with mandatory counseling and a permanent restraining order against all 4 victims. 3 years. It seemed like nothing and everything at the same time. I moved out of my old apartment. I didn't need to. Garrett Voss was in custody. The threat was over. But I couldn't go back there. The space had been contaminated by his attention. I found a new place across town, a second-floor unit in a building with better security. Keycard entry, cameras in the lobby, a doorman who actually paid attention. I kept the log for another month, Habit overriding necessity. Then one morning, I closed it and put it in a drawer. I didn't need it anymore. The motion sensor camera stayed in my window, though I stopped checking the feed obsessively. Eventually, I stopped checking it at all. 3 months later, I took it down. The apartment looked better without it. I started leaving my curtains open again, a little at a time. First during the day, then at night. I relearned the feeling of natural light, of being visible without feeling watched. It took longer than I expected. Raina and I got coffee one Saturday afternoon, sitting outside in the sun. She asked how I was doing, really doing. I told her I was okay, better than okay. I was returning to myself, the person I'd been before all this started, but with sharper edges now. More aware, less naive. You were so calm through all of it, she said. I thought about that. I didn't feel calm. You seemed it. Maybe that was its own kind of survival. Appearing calm, acting methodical, documenting instead of panicking. Maybe that's what had gotten me through. On a Thursday evening, 6 months after the arrest, I drove to my old grocery store without thinking about it. I realized where I was only when I pulled into the parking lot. I sat in my car for a moment, considering whether to leave, whether this place still carried too much weight. Then I went inside. The produce section looked the same. The lighting was too bright, the music was too loud, the cart I grabbed had a wobbly wheel. Everything ordinary. I walked the aisles slowly, putting things in my basket. Apples, bread, coffee. When I passed the spot where one of the photos had been taken, I paused, but only for a second. At home, I put the groceries away, made dinner, ate while reading a book. Normal things, small things. The kind of evening that used to feel invisible, but now felt earned. That night, I took out Detective Chen's card and looked at it one last time. Then I put it in the back of a drawer, behind old warranties and instruction manuals. I didn't need it anymore, but I didn't want to throw it away either. It represented something, evidence that I'd been believed, that I'd been helped, that I'd survived something that could have broken me but hadn't. Before bed, I checked the locks on my door out of habit, turned off the lights, and stood in my living room for a moment in the dark. The city lights filtered through my open curtains. The street below was quiet. I felt safe in a way that wasn't just the absence of danger, but the presence of agency. I'd taken control back. Slowly, methodically, with help and documentation and patience. I'd reclaimed my own life. Sometimes closure isn't dramatic. It doesn't come with confrontations or final words. Sometimes it's quieter than that. It's the moment you realize you've stopped looking over your shoulder. The moment you notice you're sleeping through the night again. The moment an ordinary evening feels ordinary again. Not like a victory or a relief, just like life. I locked the door, checked it once, and went to bed. The nightmare ended not with a bang, but with the soft click of a lock engaging, and the simple knowledge that on the other side of that door, I was alone, safe, and free.